I never imagined it would come to this, sitting at the edge of my bed, staring at the final eviction notice, like it was some kind of death sentence. 3 months, behind the red ink screamed final warning as if I didn't already know. The numbers didn't lie, and neither did my bank account 42 or 17s, that was all. We had to our name Kevin. My husband was snoring softly, beside me wrapped in the blanket. We got for our wedding. 6 years ago, he didn't know about the third notice I'd hidden it. Just like the second one, he didn't need more stress. Not now. He'd lost his job 4 months ago, and it had gutted him, stripped him of his pride, his rhythm, his reason to wake up. Now he spent most days silently scrolling through job boards and blinking back frustration. I wanted to blame him, but I couldn't. The economy was a mess. Good men were drowning, and Kevin was just one of them, but drowning together didn't make the water any warmer. I'd tried everything: reselling, clothes online, taking surveys, babysitting for neighbors who barely trusted me to hold their kids. I even pawned my engagement ring. It bought us groceries for a week, and one gas bill. We'd already downsized. This tiny apartment was the last stop before the streets, and even it was slipping from our fingers. The landlord hadn't said much. Marcus, that was his name. A towering man, probably in his late 30s, with skin the color of roasted coffee and shoulders broad enough to block out the sun. He barely spoke, just nodded when we passed in the hallway, or handed us rent reminders. With that unreadable look in his eyes, most tenants avoided him. They said he was strict cold, a no excuse. Kind of man. I hadn't expected mercy from him. But I didn't expect this. Either. It was past midnight when I decided to go downstairs. Kevin was still asleep, and I couldn't take the weight anymore. I threw on a hoodie and walked barefoot across the complex, hugging myself in the night air. The hallway to Marcus's unit smelled faintly of bleach and cigarettes. My hand hesitated at his door, hovering before I knocked. Twice he opened it, almost immediately shirtless, wearing only gray sweatpants and that same stone expression. "Jessica," he said, his voice low and even. "Can we talk?" I asked, swallowing my pride like a jagged pill. He stepped aside without a word. The apartment was tidy, dimly lit. A black leather couch, a massive TV, not much else. No pictures on the walls, no signs of warmth. "I know we're behind," I began, standing awkwardly in the middle of his living room. "I'm not here to make excuses. I just need more time. Please." He studied me for a long moment. I hated how small I felt under his gaze. Then he spoke. "Time doesn't pay bills." "I know," I whispered, heart pounding. "But we're trying. My husband. He's looking. I'm doing side jobs. If you give me 2 more weeks, I could evict you tomorrow." Silence. "But," he added, and that one word hit like a thunderclap. "There's another way." He froze. "Another way?" He didn't blink. "1 night with meh, that's it. Your rent's cleared, all of it." I stared at him, jaw slack, skin flushed with a wave of heat and disbelief. "You're joking." "I don't joke," he said flatly. "You're a grown woman. Make your decision." I took a step back. "That's disgusting." He shrugged. So his eviction, my mind reeled. I wanted to slap him. I wanted to scream. But more than anything, I wanted to forget the way my body reacted to the offer. Not excitement, not desire, just something animal like survival, snapping its fingers. "You think I'm some desperate little girl?" I asked. "I think you're smart enough to know what's coming," he said. "And desperate enough to be standing here right now." That was the worst part. He wasn't wrong. I left without another word. The door clicked shut behind me, and I walked back through the cold night, like I was sleepwalking. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just climbed into bed next to me husband and stared at the ceiling. What kind of man makes that kind of offer, and what kind of woman actually considers it the morning sun? Cut through the blinds like knives slicing. Across Kevin's face, he stirred, mumbled something about interviews, and rolled over. I lay still beside him, my body motionless, my mind anything. But the weight of last night pressed. Against my chest, the words Marcus had said played, On a loop one night, rent's cleared. The audacity of it made my skin crawl, and yet there was another feeling, buried beneath that disgust. A gnawing thought I couldn't. Silence, the eviction clock was ticking. 11 days until we were legally out. Less if Marcus wanted to push. Kevin shuffled into. The kitchen made coffee with the last scoop of grounds, and pretended everything was fine. I couldn't look him in the eye. Around noon, I called Sandra. She was the only person I could vent to, even if I couldn't tell her the whole truth. "You sound like you." "Haven't slept in a week," she said. "I haven't." "What's going on? Is it Kevin again?" "No, yeah, but it's more than that." "Jess, I know it's hard, but you can't break down. You've always been the strong one." I forced a laugh. "Strong doesn't pay the rent." There was a pause. "You're not that kind of girl," she said gently. I didn't answer. I didn't know what kind of girl I was anymore. Later, I stood at the window, watching the parking lot below. Marcus was outside, unlocking the back of his SUV. He lifted a heavy box like it weighed nothing. No eye contact, no just business as usual. It infuriated me. Was this some game to him? Did he make offers like this to every struggling tenant? I told myself I wouldn't speak to him again that night. Kevin got another rejection. He interviewed for a warehouse job he was overqualified for, and they still passed. He punched the table. Not hard, but enough to crack a plate. I can't do this anymore. I reached for him, but he pulled away, pacing like a trapped animal. Maybe we should just leave Jess. Sleep in the car for a while. Start over with what he went to bed early. I stayed up. My phone sat heavy in my hand, opened our banking app again, still 4217. I stared at the message screen for 10 minutes before I typed, "Can we talk?" I hit send, no turning back. 10 minutes later. I stood outside Marcus's door, again same hallway, same silence. My fingers trembled. As I knocked, he opened it, wearing a black t-shirt this time. No expression, no small talk. "You sure?" Hesked. I nodded once, my throat too dry. For words, he stepped aside. The apartment looked exactly the same, but it felt different, like a place where choices unraveled and changed you. He gestured toward the bedroom without saying anything. I followed inside. The light was dim. The bed, neatly made, the air smelled of sandalwood and something faintly metallic. I stood there, heart pounding so loudly it made my ears ring. "You can back out," he said. I looked at him, at the man who held her survival like a coin between his fingers. "No, let's just get it over with." He didn't smile, didn't gloat. He just nodded and stepped closer. What happened next unfolded in a blur. I won't describe every detail. It doesn't matter. The point isn't what we did. It's how I felt numb. I wasn't in my body. I was watching from above, like a ghost in my own skin. He was gentle strangely. So, but distant, efficient. It felt like a transaction, and I hated how part of me felt relieved by that. When it was over, I dressed insolence. He didn't say anything, neither did I. No shame, no comfort, just finality. Back in my own apartment, tiptoed through the dark. Kevin was asleep on the couch, arms curled tight around himself. I stared at him for a long time. He would never know. I wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. Instead, I whispered to the quiet room, as if confessing to the walls, "It's done." But something in me knew. It wasn't. The days after felt like walking through fog. Everything was muted, muffled off. I moved through routines like a ghost, laundry dishes, meaningless phone scrolls. Kevin noticed, of course. He noticed. "You've been quiet lately," he said, one morning as we sat over cereal. We could finally afford. "Again, is something wrong?" I shook my head, too quickly. "Just tired." He gave a half smile, brushing a crumb from my cheek. "We'll get through this. Promise those words. We'll get through this." Hit like a dagger because we had gotten through it. The rent had been cleared. Marcus had slipped the new statement under our door, showing a big red 0 balance. No explanation, no conversation. Just the proof that I had paid, just not with money Kevin didn't. Ask how. And I didn't offer. That silence stretched between us like a fault line. Sandra called again. I almost didn't answer, but guilt pushed my finger to the screen. You sound weird, she said after I answered. I'm fine. Still pretending to be fine, huh, you? No, you don't have to. Not with me. I closed my eye as I did something. Something. I don't even recognize myself for. What do you mean? Her voice lowered. I handled it, the rent I did. What I had to do. The pause on the other end was heavy. She didn't ask questions, didn't need to. You know, that doesn't make you a bad person. She said softly, it makes you human. But I didn't feel human. I felt like a cracked version of myself, a sketch drawn in fading pencil lines. Something in me had shifted that night, and I didn't know if it could ever shift back. Kevin found a job a week later. Nothing glamorous, warehouse logistics, long hours, but it paid. He came home, grinning like a kid. On Christmas' first paychecks next Friday, he said we can finally breathe. I smiled, kissed him, told him I was proud. The guilt made it hard to breathe at all. I kept expecting Marcusto say something, to knock on the door, to smirk in the hallway, or toss me a knowing glance. But he didn't. We crossed paths once near the mailbox. He walked past me like I was just another tenant, not even a flicker of acknowledgement. Somehow that hurt worse, because to him it meant nothing. A favor, a deal, a forgettable blip in his week. To me it was a fracture. I stood in front of the mirror, one night staring at myself under that bathroom light. The woman who looked back wasn't ruined, but she wasn't whole either. I traced the bags under my eyes, the tension in my jaw. I tried to imagine telling Kevin the truth. But what would that accomplish? Nothing but pain. Nothing but the unraveling of a man who still believed I was good. So I carried it. I carried it through grocery trips and movie nights, through quiet kisses and awkward laughter every time Kevin hugged me. I wondered if he could feel it, the difference, the invisible weight. I wore like a second skin. Some nights I almost convinced myself it hadn't happened, that it was a dream, a twisted nightmare I'd conjured from desperation. But then I'd smell that faint trace of sandalwood in the hallway, or hear the soft thud of Marcus's boots down the stairs, and I'd remember clear as day one night. Kevin lay asleep beside me, his breathing deep and steady. I curled next to him, resting my head on his chest, listening to the rhythm of his heart. I love you, I whispered. And I meant it. That was the coolest part. I never stopped loving him. But love, I'd learned, didn't always mean purity or honesty or loyalty. It just meant you wanted someone to believe in a version of you that no longer existed. I closed my eyes and let the silence answer back. Some debts are measured in dollars. Others, they're harder to pay off. They stay inside you, quiet, permanent, and no receipt can make them disappear.